We're going to bring up our final session for the day. This one is a new one for us on brands and branding. Branding your brands, I think is the proper name of it. The amazing Roger Steele volunteered to do some work with us. Who is this wave? Let me back up. We had a wave of young students or people walk in. Where did they come from? Where anyone know where that wave of young students or individuals who came in are from? You came from Roger. See, Roger attracts a crowd. There we go. There we go. Roger, we're going to have you every year, buddy. Come on up, Roger Steele, and introduce your panelists for the session. Final session of the day before we go to drinks and appetizers. Yeah, they actually should use that one. Where's the second microphone? Can you bring that up here, please, for the panelists?
All right, so I want to call up. First of all, thank everybody for being in this room. I know they got us tucked all the way in the back. See, a lot of y'all ain't been to one of these before, so you don't know how far you got to go to get here. But this is a metaphor because helping people take work. You're going to have to put the work in if you want to help people, So this is really good. I want to call up our panelists. Before I get them up here, thank them so much for taking the time. These are some very important people to me. Doing this content creation journey, I've had so much luck and I've had so much help, and the help has come in the form of really, really good relationships. And to be able to call these people and for them to give us the time to drop some wisdom and share some perspective that could hopefully give us the insights to take everything that we're trying to do collectively to the next level. I just can't thank them enough. So I'm gonna go one at a time. First, I want to welcome up Jordan Rogers. Everybody's probably followed him on social media. A beautiful marketing mind. He is, anytime I'm looking for direction, creatively, marketing wise, I go and check his page. Next, I want to welcome up Kristen Frazier from TGL. Yeah. She done looked out. So she manages influencer relationships, community impact for Tomorrow Sports. TGL has been a very great opportunity for not just me, but I think for creators as a whole. A lot of us have been able to go down there and check it out. Next, I want to bring up Brandon Carr. Brandon Carr, clap for him too. This is the global marketing director for Adidas basketball. All right, so everybody saw that Anthony Edwards campaign. Yeah, this man was behind a lot of that, So when I first got my start in golf, Brandon was the first person that hit me up. He was with Adidas Golf at the time, and I was just getting started. I was making some content. We had a conversation, not about, a brand relationship or anything of that nature, but he told me that we could do some things together, and that's where a transaction started. It always started relationship first, so I appreciate you, Brandon. Last but not least, I want to bring up the Tammy Amore. Please come up to the stage. Now, Tammy is the brand manager for Douce, but she works at Bacardi. I know you all know that I had the Doers relationship before Tammy drove all of that. Again, when I started to work with her, this was not about working with a whiskey brand. Tammy, we formed a relationship together, and she helped me navigate things I could be doing to position myself. And it's just been a beautiful relationship ever since. So the whole point of this conversation today is, how do we all, as a collective, build brands that are viable for brand and commercial relationships? Because every time we come to this room, I feel that the complaint is, I have something that I'm working on. I have something that I'm passionate about. I have a platform that I'm building, but it's hard for me to get momentum with brands for them to see the viability in what I do. These people have not only broken the code, but they also make decisions, and they drive a lot of the decisions that are made for brands at a very high level. And they've made a lot of decisions that have impacted me personally. And the insights today, I'm not saying that we're going to have some magic pill that's going to, you're going to leave here and you're going to understand, how do I go get $100,000 to, pull off this tournament or, support my platform. But I do want to start to lay the foundation of expectation and what we can expect of ourselves and what we need to do ourselves so that we could take that next level towards our collective efforts. All right, does that sound good? All right. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and the way that this will go, I'll throw it to you all. Anybody that wants to pick it up that feels passionately about it, you take it. I want to talk about the creator and just the social media landscape as a whole, and what is brands' appetite as far as continuing to tap into that to push their brand messaging. When I first got into this in 2020, it was, a different landscape. And here we are 5 years later. What is the brand appetite for looking at people that are building platforms and organizations from the ground? What are you looking for when you collaborate these days?
Hello, hello. Kristen from TGL here. I think for us and for in general, you're looking for an engaged audience. So you could be creating content, but what the brand is really looking for is a audience that leans into you for your opinion and to influence them in a way on what they should know about, what they should be following, what they should be learning. So for us, I know, or for me in general, I look for people that have really true engaged audience, not just large numbers. You could have a small amount of followers, but is your audience really tapped in with you and really following you on your journey?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. I'm Jordan. I also spent a decade in brand marketing at Nike. So I have kind of a unique experience where I'm a creator now and have been for the last almost full time the last few years. And we do consulting now. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that creators make is they say, hey, I just want to go to my favorite brand and I want them to partner with me to do my thing or whatever. What you have to think about when Kristen is making a decision on who she wants to bring to TGL, it's who is the audience we're trying to reach? Because you may have a big audience, but it might not be who the brand is actually going after. And the same would be true for Bacardi or Adidas. Like, you may have a big following of some demographic, but if that's not the demographic the brand is trying to reach, then they're not going to be quite as interested or as invested. That doesn't mean that you don't have a quality audience or you're not doing great work. It just may not be resonating with the audience that they're trying to reach. And that's tough as a creator sometimes, because you're like, well, I've got this thing and I think we could do these great things. The other thing, if you can ever filter through the noise, is like trying to understand where the brand is going. So if you really want to be nerdy, you could listen to their quarterly reports and what their CEO says, who they're doubling down on, who their consumer is, and things like that. But that's where you'll start to find. And when you find that alignment between who your audience is and who they're trying to reach, that's when you're going to start to have some synergy.
Agreed with both what Kristen and Jordan both said. And to piggyback on it, at least for us, we're really looking for people that understand our brand. People reach out to us all the time. I mean, obviously working in the liquor space, there's always opportunities for us to partner with golf tournaments, golf events, networking, many, many different things. And many of them are great opportunities, but we turn them down, not as much because we don't think it's a good opportunity, but because it's clear that you don't understand what we're building. And then it kind of closes the door for future relationship because you didn't do the research. You didn't take the time to understand what our brand was about. It's about the need state of your brand. If you're in wellness and we're in liquor, we might not work well together. If you're in luxury and we're in luxury, then that's a match, right? And even if we don't work together on that first time, and you've reached out, well, now I'm following you and I'm keeping up. I'm trying to see if your audience is engaged. I'm trying to see if you're growing your audience. I'm trying to see what you're building on your own. I'm trying to see what other partners you're working with. So I think doing the research and making sure you're really understanding before you're reaching out to brands, really understanding what their need state is and making sure that what you offer matches is really important.
Little prop mic up here.
There we go. Yeah, I co-sign on everything that they just got done saying, but I think it comes down to essentially just authenticity. I think a lot of, even maybe 5 years ago, a lot of content creators, a lot of influencers, they were showing, back to what you were saying, their vast reach. I have this many people that I can talk to, and I can give you exposure to all of them. But I think even what has stood the test of time over the last 5 years is quality over quantity. I know when we're looking at people that we want to work with, we would rather see a lot more comments. How much are you entering the group chat? How many people are actually creating that web of influence, that web of conversation? You might be at that center of that wheel, but how many spokes of that wheel are you creating? And so that is where brands are continually looking for, is just further dialogue, further conversation, further group chat worthy opportunities that they can then create their brand and further extend the conversation. So it's not just creating, lightning in a bottle to try to get as many clicks as possible anymore. That maybe it was 5 years ago, just trying to get yourself out there as much as possible. Nowadays, it's a lot more quality over quantity. It's less is more. It's how can you dive deeper and build longer term relationships. I think this is a hard one for content creators and influencers, is changing brands every single year. That's a difficult one, and it's the truth. It might not be what people want to hear, and there's no secret sauce to that. But at times, I think you do look at the history of people and what they've done in the past, and that might be the health and wellness to the alcohol brands, or the alcohol brands to health and wellness. But it's also, with all due respect, like the Nike world. If you've done something with Nike and you've built a relationship with Nike, indirectly, you're going to start to understand that brand a lot more. You're going to start to understand the ethos and what makes that brand tick. So it's very difficult for Adidas, who we want to respect Nike, but we want to forge our own path, to jump in with that content creator or that influencer if you don't, to Jordan's point, understand my brand just as much as something maybe you've already put the time, the legwork, and the attention to detail into. So I think all that to say is just go back to authenticity. What do you represent? What do you want to represent? And what are the areas that you influence the most? Because then you can sink your teeth into it and get way more into the details.
And it's just a lot of potent things that they said up here. When I look at Tammy, you talked about making sure that if you're looking for brand partnerships, understanding what that brand is about, what they're after, and making sure that there is alignment. Kristen talked about audience. If there is no audience, there's really no conversation. Jordan talked about making sure that you don't understand what the brand is saying, but making sure that they can go out into the future and what are they going to be saying and what are they going to be after tomorrow. And then, we get down to Brandon, and he's talking about authenticity and being yourself. And I hope that as you're listening to that, you're creating this Venn diagram, right? Because I do think that content creation used to be, I'm me, I do crazy stuff. Brands help me do crazy stuff. And I'm me, I'm gonna do wild and Lot. This, I'm gonna use Lot as an example. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. You here, Lot? You my guy. I think you got one of the healthiest and most engaged followings in the minority space, and this is, the Diversity Roundtable. But Lot, something that I respect about you is that you've been yourself 100% of the time. And then as I sit and I think about, Lot, I'm doing well. I'm branded up, and I want, Lot to be branded up if that's what he wants for himself. I don't know what you want for yourself, but I think that I'm just saying. But I think that there was a point in time where brands were just hungry for people that were super authentic to themselves, and that's all they cared about, and they wanted to elevate them. What I'm seeing now is that brands care that we are saying the same thing, that we're working lockstep if we're going to have a valuable and a long-term relationship. And so when you think about the Venn diagram of authenticity, brand alignment, and how those things sit together, what advice could you give people that want to be themselves but also want to appeal to commercial opportunities?
I think when creators can craft stories where a brand can be the hero in their story, and craft stories where they can be the hero in the brand's story, both and, I think that's when you create a symbiotic relationship where now I don't have to just show up in your content, whatever crazy thing you're doing, or your travel, whatever, and all of a sudden all the things that the brand is building, the brand world is kind of in the background. It can be both. It can be, okay, now we're going to the Grammys, and you're actually going to get ready with me to go to the Grammys with Duce, or get ready with me to go to the Grammys to Patron, or whatever it is. And now you're showing that both ends of the spectrum matter, and you're able to create stories for the brand on the brand's behalf that can live on their owned and operated channels, that can be amplified with media. All of that matters a lot because content is expensive to create, and most content now is user generated. We're seeing so much less like big, huge productions and a lot more really high quality user generated content that's living on brands, global owned and operated channels. So when you can, I think that's, for me, at least in our industry, that's really what we're always looking for, is like, can you be the hero in both of our stories? And if the answer to that is yes, and that like kind of continues the conversation for us.
I think I 100% agree. I think also as a creator, brands get approached a lot, and the creators thinking about their platform or themselves only. Everything is a relationship. So are you telling this, the storytelling? If you are creating a campaign for a partner, make sure that you understand the message and the mission as well, and not just say, hey, I need to go tap this brand for some money. It should be a two-way street relationship. The messages on both ends are getting across, and you're, for what I'm doing, educating your audience on the league, but we're also telling it through your voice as you would speak to your audience. Like, it just has to be a two-way street. Always think of everything as a relationship, not just a bank to tap into.
Retweet all this. And personal branding to me is an internal exercise versus external. So many people are focused on, what do I need to do to get the attention of people? How do I get more followers? What's the crazy thing I can do today to get attention? Attention does not equal trust. Attention is attention. And so on a branding exercise, we understand what makes me tick? What are the things that I actually want to do? What are the things that I want to achieve in life? What are the things I'm passionate about? For me, I've been obsessed with golf for 16 years and eat, sleep, and breathe it. I posted on my Instagram for 16 years. Guess what? Crickets for 11 of those. Suddenly, golf is all the rage. And do you know what brands and people in the space are looking for? Like, who has actually been interested in that? On the same token, just to go a little sentimental here, y'all, I spent a year incarcerated 22 years ago, recovered from heroin addiction. I share my testimony in social. I did a post on Friday. I'm reminded, because I always talk about sports marketing and everything. So many people today have even come up and been like, man, that video on Friday really touched me. And that's one of those things that's not going to go mega viral, but it is something that's going to create trust with people by being just who you are. And so often I think we look at the brand, we're like, okay, what do you want me to do? Okay, I'll go do that thing. But it's actually finding what they're saying is like, what are the things you're already doing, the drum beats? And we can only stand for 2 or 3 things, right? So for me, sports marketing, golf, criminal justice. That's it. You're probably not going to hear me weigh in on every political issue in the world, because I have the things that I specialize in that people trust me for. And so if we find that, then we find the brands who are interested in those, and that's where we find that overlap, where we can build that trust with the audience.
My 3 to that point are farming, grew up in South Dakota, family, and basketball, or really any sport, but I'll put basketball in there. So I definitely echo that. I think what you said there on the what definitely reigns true. I always try to focus more on the why. I think a lot of people, when it comes to a content creator or an influencer, almost like Vanna White's it. Like, I have this, what it does, the function, and instead of the purpose, and how it purposely impacts their life, because if their community is following them, if they have an engaged audience, they should, resonate with that. And so whether it's, Roger at a driving range showing off the latest tracker, but he's using it, he's showing the why behind something. He's not standing there showing like this is the greatest thing ever invented because it's his job or because he's being paid to do so. It's more so it's him interacting with it in his own life, and he's showing the why behind whatever that brand or that possession or whatever that is. And so I think it goes back to that, just how and where and when said item or said brand can fit within your own life to show the why behind something rather than just the what.
And so a follow-up to that, I do want to piggyback on something that Jordan said. You got 2 responsibilities here. You got to build an audience, and then you have to build trust, right? And those things don't necessarily work hand in hand. When you're a creator, how many people in here run their own organization that's for wellness in their community or exposing golf to new audiences? And then how many people are standing up their own platforms where they're trying to create golf or curate content for, new audiences? And how many of you all are just getting started, let's say it lasts 2-3 years? So you have a lot of people that are just getting started, They need to build audiences and they need to build trust in a very saturated content landscape. What needs to take the precedent if they want the longevity of brand health? How should they be prioritized? Because you could, not to be inappropriate, but we could take off our clothes and run down the hallway and get 1 million views, right? But that's not going to bring me any closer to any of my goals. I could make some disrespectful content, and it's, we bring up people like Drewski, and he's doing amazing things, but a lot of his content is very risque. This is a different landscape. You could do those things and get a lot of eyeballs, but that may not get you closer to your end goal. How do we tell people or help them identify the right strategy for building audiences and trust for long-term success in the space?
I might not have the answers to all of that.
I'm just,
but I think, I think,
I'm sorry.
we started this entire panel off by Roger giving his resume of 5 years ago. I think we live in a world today, right or wrong, that lives in about a 7-second attention span. I think that we want it yesterday, and we continually talk to kids of all ages that want it yesterday. Nobody's necessarily grinding. No one's necessarily building that resume, or if they're not, maybe they want to, but they don't have the vision of a 3-year, brand plan. We're not looking at even a business plan. If you're looking at individual influencers, you are building your own brand, not just a business. Personally, I think the business comes second. Influencers sometimes in my world, and hopefully this doesn't upset anyone, but it can be a swear word. It's just a pay to play. You change your identity for every single brand just to get the check and move on. And I think the consistency of Roger and I were sitting outside, and he was kind of asking some of these questions. And I think the consistency of sitting down and really thinking across the authenticity of who you are, the consumer base that you want to identify with, or organically, and then what brands may or may not already fit within your life, is something that you need to sit down and take the time to think about. It's not, you can fail fast early on. If you're in this new space, I think there's quite a few hands up that were kind of still in this new space. You can fail early, like you can fail fast early on, but you will learn and adapt and change to each and every one of those. But as long as you stay very focused and dedicated to the brand that you identified and built out over, say, a 3 to 5 year journey, and realize that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and don't fall victim to I need a lightning in a bottle, I need a quick, get rich quick moment, to us taking off our clothes and running down the street. Stay authentic to your space, stay authentic and true to what you've built and what you've planned out, and just remain in that and continue to build the relationships on a humanized level. You're all in this room for a reason. I was telling Roger earlier, this isn't a virtual conference. We're sitting here for a reason. Connect with people. That human interaction goes so far. And Jordan and I were even saying, we've talked online probably a couple years now. Definitely respect everything that he has to say and do and what he represents, but I've never actually talked to the guy. And he came up and we talk now, and I'm sure we'll talk more after this. And so point being is, build out who you are, think about where you want to go, look at it as a 3 to 5 year journey, just like you would a brand, but on a personal level, and then continue to stay, authentic and remain true and passionate about it. And I really believe that those moments will come. Might not come yesterday, it might not happen overnight. But as long as you're staying true to who you are, which is also the secret sauce of Roger Steele, he hasn't changed. Brands have come to him, and he's remained authentic to who he is. And so you might all look at him and be like, "This is success." Well, success took 5 years. It didn't just happen overnight. And so there's learnings to be had from that.
There's a really important thing that Brandon said there, which is, have you taken the time to think? And I think that's not overemphasized enough. And I have to do the same thing. We are going. We live in the most busy and distracted world we have ever seen. Our phones are weapons of mass distraction. We have TV, YouTube. We will entertain ourselves to death. And oftentimes we're actually looking outwardly constantly. And I'll raise my hand and saying, I actually have done this well. I've done that not well. I've done this. I make these mistakes. Last year, just recently, I'm like, okay, I've done the Instagram thing, TikTok. I'm ready to build out YouTube. And I sat down with a YouTube strategist, and I've been trying my hands really hard. It's really hard, and it's good for me to build a new muscle. And I sat with the strategist, and we sat, and he was like, "Okay, why do you want to build a YouTube audience?" And I was stumped. I am stretched. I'm on an airplane every week. I have more work than I can ever possibly handle. I'm falling behind on all my other stuff. Oh, by the way, I love being a present husband and father, which is my first job in life. And I'm like, I build a deeper relationship with my audience. Like, I don't know. And it was actually a great thing for me to pause and think like, okay, that might be right at some point, but I have to put some other things in place to even figure out what that is. And so for all of you, I would think like, what is the goal and the mission that you're actually trying to achieve? And is social media the thing that you need to do most with it? Is it that you're trying to get kids to attend your local thing? Is it that you're trying to do swing instructions for people in your area? Social media may not be, you don't need 1 million followers. You wouldn't be able to handle it. If 100 people lined up and said, I want golf lessons from you today, you might not even be able to handle 100 new clients at the same time. And so there may be a more effective way to think about it, because we all are so busy looking externally and we go, oh, okay, I need to do the social media thing, or I need to do all the platforms. Do what you can, not what you can't. So think about that time. What is it that I'm actually trying to achieve? And which of these platforms or ways will help me achieve that? And then let's focus on that and build that.
Yeah, that stuff was that was so profound. I do want to take a second and echo some of the things. Building a platform is about endurance. If we are truly passionate about the work that we're doing, we shouldn't need the external validations of brands to continue to do that work. If getting up and making golf content, if going and doing that charity outing for those kids, if putting on that golf tournament, if that stuff is not on your heart, if you are not willing to do those things independently for the rest of your life, and you require a transaction or some sort of validation outside of yourself to do those things, maybe those aren't the things for you to be doing. And I just think that I've been so blessed, these people have blessed me. And I though think that there's a world where if none of these people hit me up, I would still be doing the same things. I'll be sharing my opinions. I'll be trying to play golf. I'll be making new friends. I'll be trying to get better at the game. Like, this is just my real life that 5 years later is being rewarded. And I'll take you back to, 2016 when I quit my job, and I didn't have, any platform, and I was really just building real world friends, and those friends were helping me see the world, and my life was good. And when Brandon first hit me up, I might have had a couple thousand followers at the time, and I had just posted a video, and he was like, yo, man, I like what you got to say. I work with Adidas. I'm like, cool. What are you about? Like, oh, I'm from South Dakota and I hoop. I'm like, oh, I hoop. I could bust your ass. But that's where, this was a relationship. He was like, you know what? I'm doing this cool thing with Adidas. Would you want to come out here and be a part of this? I'm like, yeah, I'll try it. Like, I hadn't done any formal front-facing things. He extends this opportunity, and then that turns into a brand relationship, and I wasn't even looking for it. I didn't slide in Brandon DMs and ask him, could you do this for me? When Tammy reached out to me, and as soon as I talked to her, I'm like, oh yeah, you like a big sister. She talking to me, she's like, you know what? I like what you're doing. I'm working over here at Doers. We got some cool stuff going on. Like, Doers, I could get into whiskey. It make me feel like I should cross my legs more. I like crossing my legs. And from that, we create an opportunity. We forge a relationship where we're, she's saying, hey, we're trying to show that whiskey is, appealing to a broader audience. You're showing that golf is appealing to a broader audience. Maybe there are things we could do together. Let's try it. And we try it, and it works. All of these things were not me, harassing people and saying, I need this relationship to substantiate the things that I'm doing. I'm going to do these things regardless of if I have the validation or not. And I think that I want all of us in this room to make sure that everything that we try to do for this game, we're doing it for the love of this game. We don't need anybody to validate our love. And no matter what the things we're trying to do, like Jordan just said, if you want to go out and just pull 10 people into a room, that exercise of going to a local organization and finding a bunch of folks to come and sit and listen to you talk or show them how to swing a golf club could do way more for way more people than that Instagram post that you take 3 hours to try to make perfect and only gets, 30 views. And I don't want us to undermine the fact that we are here because we love a game. You know, that is first and foremost. And we believe in the power of this game. And as long as we believe in that, all of our actions should not be predicated on what people think of our love for that game. So I want to move on, and I want to talk about something that's a bit harsher to talk about. I want to talk about the diversity space. This is a diversity roundtable. I have some leaders up here of some of the biggest brands, you know, in the global brands and some big brands in golf. Can you just give us a snapshot of what your sentiments are on how golf is responding to the shifts in diversity priorities? Does anybody brave enough to speak on that?
I'll be brave.
Be brave, Tammy. Be brave.
I think you've seen definitely some slowdown for obvious reasons, and that's tough to swallow. But I don't think it's only the golf space. I think in general, you've seen a lot of defunding of DEI programs and initiatives across the board in the corporate space in sports and in other industries as well. What I will say is that I feel that the evolution from, let's call it pre-COVID to now, still matters. I think whenever I first started working with Roger, I couldn't imagine a room as big and as diverse as this is. And we spent a lot of time traveling around different cities, doing different golf events. And, you know, outside of like a dedicated NAACP golf tournament or something of that nature, I just was never exposed to something at this scale. And I think it's incumbent upon us as leaders in our industries, as leaders in the golf space, to ensure that we are doing the DEI work ourselves in the day-to-day activities and our platforms, the relationships that we're building, the connections that we are. That's our responsibility as much as it is a corporation's responsibility. So I don't think that it's over. I think that there's an opportunity for us to take it forward in a new way.
Yeah, I speak from someone that probably has played the least amount of golf in this room. I don't come from the golf space. I come from music and entertainment. And when I was approached with the opportunity for Tomorrow's Sports, I really gravitated towards it because it was about bringing more people into or having access to what we were building. It wasn't I'll be the first person to say, when I heard golf, I didn't think I even fit in the space to be able to work in it. So when I did start diving into what the league was building and things like that, I fell in love with the idea of the potential to have a room like this, be in attendance of what we're doing, or being able to talk to a bunch of different people about something that might feel intimidating to them too. I have been wildly surprised at how diverse the space of golf is. I think there's a little bit of an old guard and a new guard too. I think certain rooms you can walk into and be like, oh, am I even welcome here? But there are companies, and I think there are people seeing that, especially since the pandemic, golf is more than what you thought it could or thought it was. There's way more way more people that have either been involved in the game or started getting involved in the game within the time of COVID. When I met Roger, I was like, wait, you're golf focused? Like, I didn't even know this existed. But there are platforms and there are places that are looking to bring this kind of new conversation in golf into what was already existing. And I'm happy to be a part of that. But I do still feel like there is a little bit of a divide in what that looks like. And I think there's people like us that are looking to bring and make the rooms look a little bit more diverse and the spaces to feel a little bit more diverse.
I think there's two sides of the conversation. There's like, what are brands looking for? And then they're like, what can we do? And what are the individuals, right? So when I teach personal branding, I show an image of a bunch of sheep. And there's all white sheep and there's a black sheep in the middle. I think that metaphor can ring as far as we want, right? What we're trying to find, the most important thing in branding is to be distinct. Roger's voice is distinct in golf. Why did Roger resonate so much? Like, lot over there. His voice in golf is distinct. And so we are trying to find that place where only we can be there. Again, that's why I asked for internal reflection on like, what is the thing that makes you tick? What is the thing you could talk about for hours that nobody else could? What is your element and your passion point? And so that distinction, a lot of times, sometimes we look around and all we see is these other white sheep. And we're like, I just want to be like, okay, do I need to make myself like that to be able to fit in? And actually, I think the exercise is to try to figure out what it is that makes us distinct and we can stand out. And that can be a beautiful thing. And so I think there's two sides of that. On the brand side, I do think that brands are looking to, push the game forward, and they don't need another bald white guy to represent their brand. They don't need that to partner with. They're looking for more voices, more people. And so I'm telling you, if you build it, they will come. If you build it, they will come. But to our earlier part of where we started this conversation is you got to build it over time. And they're looking for the people who've been there, not the flash in the pan. And so you have to build it, and then they will come. And if they don't, we have opportunities now. The democratization of sport and manufacturing and brands is so amazing right now that we don't need, no offense, Nikes or the Adidases of the world or the PGA of America, whoever the big brand, we don't need them necessarily always to co-sign, even though they're doing great work. There's other ways to build that up together now. And so would love to hear, Brandon, your perspective from a big brand as well. Y'all are doing a lot of great work.
Thank you. I mean, I think I co-sign the brand side of it. I think from an individual side of it, it gives a lot more opportunity to hit on what Roger said earlier. As far as we all leave and we have a share of voice to represent our communities and to represent something on a localized level. So within basketball, we talk about it quite a bit. We might not, or even in golf, I guess. I mean, we could focus on what Dustin Johnson's wearing. We could focus on what Anthony Edwards is wearing on court. But at the end of the day, if that boy or girl in your local community has not interacted with your brand or has not put a pair of Adidas basketball shoes on, they don't know you any more than the person that is wearing Nikes or whatever other brand. So point being is, I think when it comes to basketball, when it comes to golf, when it comes to any sport, there's a lot more opportunity to get into that grassroots level. Get the 10 people out. I mean, the one thing that brought Roger and I together wasn't so much a platform to give him a voice. It was more so us sitting down and brainstorming, what do we want to say? And it was a little, I was telling Jordan, it was a little ahead of its time, but it's super important. And I'm super passionate about it because it was called Driving Range Diaries. And we wanted to tell a story about what golf looks like outside of the expensive country club, outside of the 18 holes of etiquette, red tape, doesn't really invite others in. And this game that we all love is something that you grow into. Every other sport out there, you pretty much grow out of. I played basketball in college. My sister played basketball in college. I now work in basketball, but I don't hoop. Ever since I played Roger in New York and he busted my ass, like I don't hoop anymore. I hung it up.
I told him.
But my point is, golf is something you grow into, and there's something super beautiful about that. And the other thing is, Jordan and I could be on a basketball court, and all due respect, like I don't care that he's a father. I don't care that he has kids. I don't even know if they're boys or girls or whatever. You get us on a golf course after 18 holes or a driving range, I know everything about him. We could be best friends. And there's something super beautiful about the social element of this game that goes far beyond the country club that you may or may not afford to be in. And so I think if you continue to stay rooted in the fact that it can start early, it can start late, but there's opportunity to engage, have a social element, educate, and grow the game further just by the 10 people on the golf course, or just by, you getting out into your community in a localized level. That grassroots initiative can go well beyond any sort of, back to what you said, clicks or 30 views. And I think that humanized interaction is something that golf is also bringing to the table in a very beautiful way. So when it comes to the brand side of it, I echo what Jordan said, but everyone has said, but when it comes to the personal side of it, continue to stay, again, rooted in what you represent. What is your 3-5 year journey? And continue to remain the heartbeat of your community or what you stand for, and bring people into the game that not only represents the sport, but represents what you are trying to do and grow within it.
Thank y'all for all of that. I want to say one thing in closing. First of all, can you please give a round of applause to our panelists? This is the Diversity Roundtable. This is building brands for brands. As I look around this room, there's a couple people that I want to shout out. Echoing the things that we said earlier, if you're not willing to do this work because you love this work, don't do it, and find something else to do, because we're here because we love it. With that being said, I think in the minority space, there are some really shining examples of things that we could be doing today that we can build into practice, that if we endure, these things will pay off. When I shouted out loud earlier, he's not super brand heavy, but he's building his own. And because I know that that is who he is and he's going to stand the test of time, that brand will be the biggest, or like as big as he wants it to be in due time. But I know that he's going to stay the course and he's going to achieve that. I see my boy Modi over there with Swain building something, literally building something from the ground. I mean, building it based on real community, getting people to actually pull up and enjoy the game and experience the game alongside each other, and saying no to things. When we talk about things, it's like, yo, what is the right partnership for this? Not what can I get, it's what's right for this. And I just think that when you look at examples like, I'm building my own brand and I'm doing it my way and I'm going to let it stand the test of time. I'm building my own brand. I'm bringing my people to it and I'm not saying yes to anything. We're going to wait for the right thing. And I also want to shout out my boys from Gold Links. I don't know if they're still here, but I know that they've been playing a lot of golf and you know, they probably tired taking a nap. Anybody in here from Gold Links? Yeah, they were in here earlier. They were in here earlier. But, you know, they really said that, you know, we are Atlanta. We love golf and we love this style of golf and we want to bring this game of golf to everybody. If nobody watched that, those guys will still be playing golf every single day the same way that they show it online. And I think that authenticity over time will win in this space, but all of us that are building, we have to endure. We going through a rough time, I think, from a prioritization perspective. I think that this room is indicative of that. But I think that if we care about the things that we're building, and if we can just hold on and keep doing the day-to-day of what we're after, we will be successful. And so I want to thank all of y'all for coming up here, blessing up with your wisdom and your time. And I want to thank everybody for sitting in this room this long and listening to us talk, because it really means a lot that we were heard by you all.